talk about the differences between, Southampton and going to the US, and then now you've been at Circle and you've also been at Esperance. From your time coaching at Esperance, like you said, it wasn't as long as you would have liked it to be. But what was, first of all, how different was the club from the one that you'd left, 18 years previous, or however many years? But then on top of that, what was the big difference between a Southampton, a Cercle Rouge, and an Esperance? Because obviously Esperance is not at the level, at some of these clubs, but it's still a huge club with the expectations of Champions League football and the pressures that come with that. What were the big differences between those kind of footballing cultures?
Yeah, I think the big difference between Europe, between Esperance and any other club in Europe is the difference between Africa and Europe. It's simple for me, because what Europe is well advanced. So I'll take it from being professionals in everything. So that's the big difference, especially when I came back, last year in Esperance, and then I thought, okay, nearly 20 years since I left. Okay, let's see what's changed there. I was a bit shocked, to be fair, because nothing changed. The same holes in the walls that I left, and I'm not exaggerating, is the same holes, and since I was 16 and 17, and then it was a shock in term of seeing that, but it's in certain way, when you hold back and think about it, it's normal. We lack in professional basics, education, professional education. We have a lot of issues in terms of developing players, in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of administration, all that stuff, that things that we need to improve massively and as quick as possible to get the continent in general to the best, to the next level. We have the quality of the place where we don't have everything around it, which is something that I am fighting personally, to help to improve. But what I try to do in Esperance is to get that base, to put that base on the pitch, creating clear playing philosophy with a lot of principles of play clear, and from there I tried obviously to help the players individually, to fulfill their expectation positionally, each one his position, and each one what you need to improve. But at the same time, I have to win games. That was the challenge. So that's why I come out with I called my philosophy is win to develop and develop to win, because I felt winning help you to develop some individuals and some stuff, but then developing will also help you to keep progressing and keep developing as a team. And then since I came back from Esperance, I had a couple of months where I stayed in my office back in UK in Southampton, and then I started to put in place some of the tried and trusted themes and theories, and I think it will work. Win to develop and develop to win, because it's all related. In some clubs they'll tell you to develop, but you're not going to win, because if you focus on developing, the winning is not going to be consistent. But in some clubs they want you to win, but then maybe they sacrifice developing, and then you see some clubs who wanted to win, they don't use their academy players, they don't use their things. So I'm trying to sit in that gray area where we'll have the best players who can win games, but also players with area to develop. We're gonna make them the best they can, and that's why I think if you look at in Europe, not many teams, do that. But Cercle Bruges is probably one of the youngest teams in the senior level who progress and play with a good balance. But also we have 23 years old average age, which is amazing, because it helped me to try and apply some themes, and it's great because the benefit for everyone, obviously, especially for the club. You bring players, and then development, and then you sell them to the bigger leagues, and that was the challenge in Esperance, because Esperance traditionally is a team who won Champions Leagues, but the last couple of years they were struggling. They were struggling whether to bring the best players or whether to get the best results. So it was an opportunity for me. I said, okay, let's work on this and give me 2 years, 2 seasons, and then I'll try to have a good strategy to win a trophy by building a team. But I think there is one thing that is not controllable in Tunisia, which is politically. The politics is very ruthless and is very it's delicate, subject, because it's mixed with a lot of stuff like corruptions and a lot of manipulation, all that stuff. So even within the club, you have 3 different parties that will fight against another party. It's difficult. It's difficult to put a long-term strategy. So you can't even speak about what is the difference, because Europe is totally different, totally organized, and totally balanced environment, where if you work hard, you benefit straight away from that work, and especially if you work with the right strategy and the right balance, you definitely benefit from it, and especially if they give you the time, then you benefit from it. Like we saw last year, Arsenal with Arteta. Obviously, Arteta could be sacked, within the 3rd game, but then the confidence they give him and the time and support they give him, you can see this year. And any young coach or a coach with the right philosophy can make it.
If I may, isn't that the exception, not the rule? Because you spoke of 2 years of Esperance. You've touched on 3 things that I want to ask. You said when you arrived at Southampton, for example, you believed you were the right age because it allowed you to ask the questions why and how, which is something you hadn't done before. And then when you spoke of Esperance, you said you returned to a club you had left 20 years before, and you have little, if any, improvement in terms of infrastructure or maybe operations, based on what you had left. And then the third point was you spoke about time. And you said your project with Esperance, your request was 2 years. I want to start there. What do you think is the ideal timeline for a coach like yourself to be able to implement and reap the rewards of their philosophy, not maybe building on an existing format? Some people have argued it might take 4 seasons and 7 transfer windows, shorts and longs, to allow the team, maybe in a buying club, that is, to have a philosophy on the pitch that may be talent that a coach has chosen themselves. That's the kind of timeline a person like Jurgen Klopp got at Liverpool, where he was building on something, and after a while pretty much changed it and brought in all the personnel he wanted, but that was done over time. And then a person like Arteta, which is not too dissimilar, where a board says we would back you, and they would say, okay, whilst everybody's pushing for you to leave, we're gonna go against the grain and we will wait. Maybe because they didn't have a better option out there, whatever the reason is, but they really believed in what he was doing. We don't really know. But he got more time than most people would get. A person like a Graham Potter, now already at Chelsea, just a few months into the job, there are already whispers of he needs to leave. This is beyond him. But a person like Ten Hag at Manchester United, similar kind of time frame, but he's reaping better rewards. And so they say, oh, give him more time. Do you think there's an ideal cycle, time frame? Secondly, most importantly, do you think the investments that go into a club, not just on playing talent, but even in terms of infrastructure, and therefore that means the money that comes in, should this money be benevolent or should it be for the business? And if it's for the business, how do you define the fine line between the sport and the business? Because again, you say your book is called Winning to Develop and Developing to Win. That seems like that fine line, that gray area where you're understanding that there's a need maybe for return on an investment, but there's also a need for continuity, for a culture of excellence, and how you find that fine line between the two. I'll leave those to you.
Yeah, definitely. It's a long question, but I'll try, to answer, the point that I pick. And correct me, please, Francis, if I miss any point, because it's very important, to answer these questions. I think the first one is how I define the time of, coaches stays in the business. I think it's all go back to the vision, the vision of the club or the ownership, and the people around the ownership. When you say I wanted to, I don't know if the ownership, is not, which is businessman, is not a football person, he will say I wanted a team to play with a lot of intensity and based on the data and maybe young talented players who can bring a high salon fee after 2-3 years of being with us. Then that's the aim, that's the global vision of the ownership. And then the people under the ownership, start from the directors, especially sporting directors, they will try to put that on a map, on a strategy. The strategy with the KPIs, and any strategy with KPIs, you need to put time frame. For a coach, it's the same. When he came and present, his football philosophy and football style, he will see the team that is available, and the players are available for him, and then it depends of the quality and the players' availability in the team. He will say, okay, do we need 1 or 2 window transfer, to get rid of some players and bring some players adapted to my philosophy? The financial, revenues or the financial capacity to bring such high players. So it's all relative. I think, we start to see now, especially with the big club in England and in Europe, they bring a coach who's adapted to the culture, not the other way around. And this has started, a couple of years ago. So bring a coach or a manager who's adapted to the culture. So this is the starting point, and then from there, everyone together will put a strategy aligned to the vision, and then they put a time frame. That's why we started to see again with the bigger clubs, except some exceptions, of course, but then mainly supporting the coach, even on the bad moment or bad periods, because they know they're working for a long period. They're not working for just 3 or 4 matches or just for that season. As long as they're keeping the balance in terms of the results, they are progressing and supporting the philosophy, included the coach, to go to the next level. And that what happened basically, Arsenal. I watched the documentary, and it's amazing documentary. Of course, it's a documentary, but we all know what's going on in the background when the fans, influenced by the social media and influenced by the TV pundits who are influencer now more than TV pundit, and then one sentence can put a coach under high pressure, and then fans will react aggressively to the coach, and they're able even to touch his personal character, which is not fair. So all that, it's the business, and clubs now, they started to say, hold on here, if we bring every 6 months or every 3 months coach because he lost three games, and we adjust our culture to that coach, and then every 3 months, 6 months we change our culture, then it's a loss. And then I don't think any businessman or any owner who wanted to lose a lot of money, so at least the businessmen, they know they need to put a strategy and put a process to any successful business, and that's part, and the time is part of it. As long as they see the coach working hard, aligned with the KPIs, all together in the same directions, and everyone, and then keeping assessing the project. I think that's my answer to the in terms of the timings. And again, the best example is Klopp. Liverpool waited 3 years, to lead, the right teams, included Virgil van Dijk, Sadio Mane and Salah and co. And you see the example
again.
of Arsenal last year. Again, Southampton with the minimum budget, to be fair, seriously, if you compare us, to Man U, Arsenal, and the big dogs, we had really minimum budget, but we managed, to have the right strategy to keep ourselves, in the Premier League for how long now? Nearly 12 years, and then we had the successful years where we make it to the Europa League, and again, the players that we brought halfway, with area to develop, and then we sold them to bigger clubs. We gained money, and we gained
Stature.
confidence, yeah, and reputation from that. And then I think we kept going with that. But again, I don't think there is a time. The time only depends of what we aiming to attain and how we do it, and the how we do it is the key. If the marriage is not aligned with how we do it, then of course you need to change and make changes.
I like that. It's very profound, I must say.
Yeah, I mean, Radhi, I appreciate we don't want to keep you for too much longer, but one of the questions I really wanted to ask you is you're talking about how African nations have struggled because we have the product in terms of the players, but we don't have the infrastructure and the systems around them. But one thing that we've kind of spoken a lot about on this podcast is how in the last few years we've suddenly seen this burst of African coaches suddenly emerging. On this podcast, we've had the likes of Pitso Mosemane on a few times. We've had Benny McCarthy on, and we've seen likes of Walid Regragui, the Toure brothers are now getting good jobs. And, what do you think suddenly, what's happened in your mind that suddenly we've got this generation of you guys who played in the Premier League, or the likes of Pitso and Walid who, played in Morocco, France, or South Africa, and suddenly you're all coming out and being really successful? What do you think has brought that change? And then also for you, seeing the African teams at the World Cup, all having African coaches, and again, particularly like Cissé and Regragui's success over the last year, how much confidence does that, bring to you as someone who's working in the kind of European space, but comes from Africa?
Yeah, this is another subject which is, I think, we started, to speak about a lot last period, and I think there is a wake up call in many aspects. Start from the players and the former players who wanted to be a coaches now. They started, to anticipate. So before they finish their career, there's because you like to know we have a lot of African players, in Europe, and then the European clubs they started obviously like myself, who's was born in Tunisia, but I was developed in UK, and then with the UK um, um, base. So the first thing I wanted to do is how I can help, my country, and how I can raise the awareness, especially because when I was in Tunisia, I didn't have information. I don't know how to get a qualification, or how I don't know how to go and develop myself as a coach. Until now, I still receive, some messages and calls from young coaches asking me how they're going to do that. And this is one of the main issues we have in Africa. There is no communication, whether from the CAF Confederation or from the federations, the countries. There is no one knows. But while in UK, you receive monthly, communication, whether magazines or calls or emails, from the FA, from the PFA, who inform you about the search course, first opportunity to join, former players, or search this and that, and then what you need to do, how to do that, what if you do that. These are all information that we're missing in Africa. So the players who played in Europe, and then now they started, to take action to develop themselves as a coaches. And then you brought the best example of Toure brothers. As I said, I played against Kolo, and then we were together in UEFA Pro, and we had a lot of discussion about this. And then one of the discussions is, hey, okay, when you go back to Ivory Coast, to help the national team. But then it's great to see now former players take action and develop themselves as a coaches and as a leaders, not just the coaches, any other role within the football structure that can help. Because what we have in Africa, of course, with my respect to the people who do it right, we have a lot of non-expertise, taken over the field, which is wrong for me. I think you need to have a balance of former players and players who and coaches who know the meaning of football, and they know football industry, and they know the modern football to get the country to the next level. So the fact to go to the World Cup with the five countries with their own five coaches, it's a great message from African football, that at least we rely on our local talent. But then at the same time, as I said, our local talent, they need more support, they need more confidence, they need more care, and then given time, to get to their objectives, with their countries. It's a great message, but the road is still long for us, to see one day consistency, and then we see one day the consistent result, like Morocco showed this time with Walid Regragui, who's born in France, and then lived in Morocco, and he had his chance in Morocco, which is for me different, because local, it means born in his own country, and then progressed in that development program, which is we don't have. But Morocco, I think going back to Morocco, they're leading now, because since 5, or probably more than 5, 8 years, Morocco has been working on their base, and that I think that they did their development revolution since a couple of years, and that's why they're benefiting in the latest World Cup. Now we need to know how Morocco did it, and then we maybe try, to as other countries try, to build our own curriculum and our own development programs, our own coach development programs, our own infrastructure to compete against Morocco and any other countries, especially in the World Cup. So we another thing that the word now is linked to each other. As much as I spoke, wrong about, social media, I think there is benefit as well. Social media opened the word on each other. So anyone in the world can open any platform about any website about, coaching and about, developing, or about leadership, or about, communication or psychology or whatever. You can find the right base. And then that's why I think we feel there is the information now if you want it. And then you just need to work toward that. And then as a country, we need to, especially the African country or continent, we need to get rid of the politics and make sure football is just football. Because football is a sport, is a fake business, and it's a fake politics. If you make it, politics, then you divide, people, and football is supposed to bring people together. And that's something as well we need to get rid of. And then take care of the former players, because they're the ones who can take the countries or the clubs or whatever to the next level.
You said some very profound things there. I'm not sure I agree with everything, though. We have to have some teas and talk through these. But it's fascinating to be able to get the insight from somebody like yourself. Your first-hand experience lends itself well to exactly what it is you're speaking about, which is a project to bring Africa onto the global ecosystem that is football properly. And I think very often we are critical because we like and we expect much of our space. But you touched on it. We have allowed the less competent to run football for a very long time. And I think those with better knowledge, the better understanding of what the game could and should be for a continent are beginning to put their hands up and saying, I'm willing to have a go. So based on that, can I ask you a very random question? World Cup 2026, as Alasdair knows, is my fascination. You already have an American connection. Is it unhealthy and unwise to consider you as head coach for your country at the World Cup? There will be 9 African countries. I'd like to think a great footballing nation like yours would qualify. But with something like international football, for a tournament like that in 4 years' time, it's not far. Be something that sits on your kind of agenda, or is club football more where you see yourself?
That's a good question for me, because I had the call from the Tunisian Federation 2019, I think, to take the role. But then I said, I wasn't ready, because I wanted to compete in a league environment and league version where I can play every Saturday. I can obviously focus on my also development as a coach. 2026 is something that I really maybe look after, or look for. I think I'm ready to take a project with the right base, with the right support to take it to the next level. I'm really confident in that, because I took my time to develop myself, as I said, and I took my time as well to try and trust a lot of my themes that I practice now. Now taking Tunisia for 2026 or beyond that or before that, I don't know really, but I'm open to any proposition from that aspect, because I feel like again, I'm not giving up on Tunisia, because people think Esperance was enough experience for me to showcase my ability. I think that's not, because I went in a time where people are not ready for me, or for anyone who bring the professionalism to the next
I
level.
have a friend from Sfax, and he doesn't like you because you beat Sfaxian in the
in the Super Cup.
But I
Of
also
course,
think
of course.
somewhere like Kenya, I know they're having a fantastic review for their ambition for their football. And there are at least another 4 countries. I know Malawi, for example, are very ambitious. I know Cabo Verde are very ambitious. And I think there is something unique about us as Africans, this ability to connect with multiple geographies, as in even the places that aren't maybe our nations. Would you also be open to entertaining the option of even helping a non-Tunisian state if you can lend your expertise to a project, like you said, if it's a project and it's well mapped out, or you are allowed to map out something with the end goal of maybe ending up at the World Cup, would something like that be of interest to you?
Yeah, definitely. As I said, I'm really interested in the project. I went, from Europe, I went to USA, America, and I went to Africa, and I'm ready to go to Asia, maybe, because I think again, football is international, and my expertise is obviously, I think I need to spread out, the knowledge, what I learned, and what I experienced as a player to the players of the world. I don't care whether my aim and my objective is to coach one day in a pro league, but again, I'm flexible enough to take a project where I can express myself as a coach, and then try and play the way I wanted to play, or the way we agreed with the club to play, and then be successful coach, or successful manager. That's my aim. I don't really mind the name, unless it's the Premier League, of course. But for me, Africa is my continent. I played all over Africa when I was a player, and I'm totally aware that I know there is difference between North African and African Sub-Saharan. I don't know why, but for me, I can see people like Cameroon now, for example, Samuel Eto'o, and then my brother Rigobert sang the song. They're trying they're all taken hold of the football industry in the country, and then try to take it to the next level with their connection, with their experience as a football players, with them now having management,
Even Jeremy
and
at
coaching.
50.
Exactly. Not just I mentioned too, but my brother from Cameroon. I met a couple of them in the World Cup. They're doing a great job. Not just Cameroon, Senegal, and then I think other countries, they need to follow with that way. And I always calling my former colleagues in Tunisia to take hold on football, because again, I always go back to say football is for footballers. If you recycle footballers and give them the right support in terms of education, in terms of expertise, they will achieve the objectives. And for me, again, I would love to go back to my country and then help. But I think my country is not ready, because we have a lot of problems. Again, as I said, a lot of problems. We're not accepting professionalism now. We're not accepting being demanding, and long-term strategy. Any country are ready, or any club is ready to go for a medium term or long-term strategy. 2026, of course, that's the aim.
Absolutely. And we cannot wait to see where you will be in 2026, whether that's the World Cup or the Premier League, or, you know, like you said, maybe you'll be at Al Nassr with Ronaldo, or you'll be doing all the above. But also, what, you know, speaking to you, Radhi, I came to hear about you as a coach, but I'm now thinking this guy needs to be a sporting director, a CEO, a president of a federation. You have the whole everything planned. But Radhi, thank you so much for joining us. And to our listeners, you know, if you've enjoyed listening to the wisdom and the expertise that Radhi's brought today, as we have, I'm sure Francis will agree, please hit us up on our social medias. You know, like Radhi said, there is some good in social media. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at OTW_podcast. You can find us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Spotify. Just look up On the Whistle podcast, and we drop a podcast every week interviewing some of the best and brightest on the continent, like Radhi. Radhi, thank you so much for joining us.